Hi, I'm Eitan Glinert from Firehose Games, and today we're going to talk about Slam Bolt Scrappers.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Eitan. I have a few questions. So why here? Why are you guys here?
So why is it Boston big? A couple of reasons. First off, Infocom was here, and that kind of started the ball rolling. You've got all the universities around here and the tech stuff, and that's huge for it.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's like a big city, but it's like not super expensive, so people can afford to be here. Like, New York City has a far smaller game development environment, and it's not that there aren't enough people, it's just like you can't pay for it. And so Boston's kind of become like the East Coast hub. I would say that the cities that are bigger than Boston are probably Austin, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Vancouver.
Ah, okay.
So I was at MIT, graduated, went down to DC, worked at a nonprofit making an immunology video game called Immune Attack.
Okay.
Did that. Turned out I loved it. That was my first video game. Came back to Boston.
This is like 5-6 years ago?
5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was in DC. I was making an immunology video game.
Yep. Good choice.
Well, it's funny. It's not like I chose to do it. Everyone's always like, how do you break into the video game industry? And the truth matters, it fell into my lap. I wasn't looking for it, and I feel bad saying that, right?
It's all right.
I mean, I was doing biotech at the time.
Yeah.
And like, I just got offered a job making this game because I needed someone that knew coding and that knew immunology. So I was like, sure, I'll do this. Ended up coming back to Boston because I found out they were opening up a video game lab at MIT called Gambit.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing my master's there. That's when I made the video game for the visually impaired.
And what's that game?
Odyssey. Nintendo Wii Remote on a PC or a DJ in a nightclub. It's really cool.
Okay.
And then after that, I actually started up Firehose. And, that was 2+ years ago, and now here we are with our first game about to come out. When we started up Firehose, we had a corporate motto. Corporate motto. Right. Me and the other two guys, we had a motto, which was, we're going to make games that have positive impact.
Yeah. And
we identified 3 areas of positive impact we were interested in. One was getting people excited about science and engineering through accurate science and engineering in video games.
Sure.
Another one was making games that have interesting user interfaces that everyone can play. And the third one was making games that allow people to be creative and then express themselves and share what they've done.
Okay.
And so those were our 3 awesome areas that we were going to explore with Firehose, and we were going to change the world with the company.
Somewhere in there you added primary color gargoyles that poop on your stuff.
I know, yeah, we kind of strayed a little bit. So as it turns out, money's important.
Yeah.
And so we ended up, we're not exactly abandoning those ideas, but we're going softer on those ideas for the time being. And we're not violating any of our core principles, but we're not making an educational game here or anything like that. And that's something that we'd like to get back to in the future. But for the time being, we're just going to make a fun game that has neat stuff in it. And we're going to try to make some money to the point where we can breathe. And then once we've done that, we'll explore some weird stuff more.
So do you have any sort of angel investment that's helping you out now? Something that's paying the bills in that kind of way?
No, it's terrible. Speaking of which, you're going to need to pay me $5 for this interview. It's not a joke. So we bootstrapped. We ended up doing contract work for another studio, and we did major work for them on a project. And so that kind of paid our bills. If I could do it again, totally would do it. It was such a smart move. We learned a ton.
Yeah.
We figured out how to work together as a team. The company we worked with, I can't say who it was, but they were awesome to work with. I mean, really good people.
Well,
which normally you hear about people getting screwed over, but we managed to find the one company that was great. And we still have a good relationship with them, where I still talk to them and stuff. I actually have very good things to say about them if I could. But
good. As you said, there's a lot of people who learn the opposite. They learn in business because they made some sort of very poor choice, or they took...
Well, it's interesting, actually. We were approached by 2 people for contract work.
Yeah.
And they were both interesting, and I basically had some advisors that I was asking for advice. Look, we had these 2 things we could do. What do you guys think? And so we ended up going with one over the other because that seemed like the right thing to do.
Right.
And since then, we had a fantastic experience with the company we worked with. The other company, there was a lawsuit involved. The whole thing fell apart.
No kidding.
I think anyone doing a startup is nuts if they don't get some sort of advisory help. And just it doesn't have to be official. You don't have to have advisors. You just need to have people you can talk to. People that try to go at it alone and figure stuff out on their own, they go out of business. People that are smart enough to know what they don't know and know to ask for help, those are the people that do well, because you're if you can learn from someone else's mistakes instead of making them yourself, you're so far ahead of the game. So if I could still be making the video games I want to make in 25 years, that'd be amazing. And that probably means that I've done something right, because some of the video games I want to make, especially like the ones I was talking about, if I'm still making them in 25 years, that means that like we've proven that this is a success, and then that would be tremendously valuable. So that's how we started doing it, right?
Yeah.
So the different iterations are so wildly different you can't even imagine it. So forget iteration 1. Let's talk about iteration 4.
Let's talk about iteration 4.
We're at iteration 5 right now.
Yeah.
That's Slam Bolt Scrappers. Iteration 4 was so different that in that version, there was a dam that was going to explode and leak water onto the thing. You had to keep the dam. And so you had to go and kill enemies, and they would give you building material like putty, and you would go and patch the dam up while you were fighting.
And how long ago was 4 the one you were working on?
Maybe 12 to 9 months ago.
Something that you... was it the sort of thing where you sold Sony on version 4?
No, we tried. Version 4 was a failure, unfortunately. It was very sad. We submitted it to IGF, we submitted it to IGC East, and did not go. Wow. And that's why we decided to iterate again. And we came up with version 5, and version 5 was the winner. It was a night and day difference. Like, version 4 was always kind of like a little bit fun, but not crazy fun. Yeah. And then we played version 5, and we're like, oh yeah, this is it.
Is it literally put one good weekend, you reach that point where you've had enough good ideas?
It was a month, dude.
That's the jump.
A month to switch. And on top of that, we threw out 3.5 months worth of work. It was very painful. But luckily, we're a small indie studio, and we didn't have a strict deadline, and we were able to say, look, we need to go back and make some changes. But looking back now, 100% the right move to make, and it was extremely painful to do, but it was the right thing. Within a month, we were like, this is arguably better than what we already had. And the second you have something like that, you're like, you need to reevaluate what you're doing. This was so much faster to get to such a better point. But the thing is that we couldn't have made 5 without 4, because we learned so much in each of the past iterations that was necessary.
When you made that agreement with Sony, do you get support, like financial support from them up to a certain point, and then you deliver the game to them, and then you hammer out something new? Or do you know what will happen when they distribute, how they...
No, we know. Basically, they provided us with the funding we needed to finish the game. And they provide us with a bunch of other stuff too, like support and help and advice and marketing help and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in return, they take a good chunk of our royalties. But it's a very mutually beneficial.
Is it something where they look a certain distance into the future and they say, hey, if you reach these kind of things, then we'll talk about your next project, or we're happy to talk about your next project?
If we continue doing a good job with the game and it comes out and it's successful and it works well, they definitely are going to want to talk to us. And if we screw up in some major way, then they probably won't want to talk to us, right? I think that's usually how business relationships work. So they're taking a little bit of a gamble on us, right? Let's be fair. I think that there's a gamble on their end, because we are a new studio and we've had some success. We got some press and stuff like that, but we're still unproven. So they're taking a gamble, and if it turns out well, then they're definitely going to want to work with us again. And if it doesn't turn out well, then, But I think the game's going to do well, and we get along well with them, so I don't think that'll be a problem. I hope not. We'll see.